All right, good morning, everyone, and thank you all for being here. Hold on, wait 1 second. We are on Pulaski Highway. Two. And thank you all for being here. I'll start by saying, due to the incredible work that my administration has been leading through our comprehensive violence reduction strategy from BPD, MONSE, working with our neighborhoods and partners and communities across the city, Baltimore has seen significant reductions in violent crime, including a 20% reduction in homicides and a 10% reduction in non-fatal shootings year to date. That is something that we should note and note consistently, because while we are nowhere where we want to be with violence in Baltimore, this is a significant step in the right direction, especially again when we see cities like DC and others have their violent crime going the other way. A 20% reduction in homicides in Baltimore is not something that we should not talk about, but also make sure that our residents and visitors and everyone that consistently talks about Baltimore when homicides and shootings are up in Baltimore understand that they are down and down significantly. That decrease includes a 23% decrease in carjacking incidents from last year to this year. We've done this by bringing the entire community into our work, being collaborative, and changing an attitude that lets politics get in the way of doing the right thing. But there is one major statistic trending in the wrong direction. As of last week, we were experiencing a 227% increase in auto thefts. But I want to be very clear about what's happening here. This increase in our city, and we're grappling with this as a part of a nationwide increase in car thefts, driven largely by the theft of certain Kia and Hyundai models and the proliferation of online videos demonstrating how to steal these vehicles with simply a USB. In fact, Kia and Hyundai models make up over 68% of the vehicles stolen in Baltimore City. This is an issue that our counterparts in Baltimore County, Howard County, and jurisdictions across the country, like Washington, D.C., and others, are also contending with. Since we began experiencing this trend in late 2022, I've tasked members of my administration with developing and carrying out a multi-pronged strategy designed to mobilize every tool in our toolbox to tackle this issue, and they've been doing that work diligently. Today, we are updating and expanding that already existing strategy. Our work really falls into four main buckets. One, prevention. Two, deterrence. Three, enforcement. And four, continued legal action against negligent manufacturers. And each of these buckets focus on increased cross-government and cross-jurisdictional collaboration so that we are addressing rising auto thefts from every possible angle. We must tackle this issue in line with national best practices and insight from other cities that have been grappling with this broader trend. To that end, we are combating auto thefts with the continued distribution of anti-theft devices to car owners. To date, we've distributed over 3,000 steering wheel locks in 2023 through one public distribution event and localized distribution events at BPD districts. We've secured more than 2,000 additional wheel locks to give out to residents in need. We will hold two distribution events on Sunday, November the 11th and Wednesday, November the 15th. Following these two events, residents will be able to pick up wheel locks at one of the 9 police districts while supplies last. We are also working with the manufacturer to schedule system upgrade clinics for Kia and Hyundai vehicles to assist residents with installing anti-theft software updates from manufacturers designed to prevent cars from being started using the methods that are going around on social media teaching people how to steal these vehicles. Residents who are able to get this upgrade on their own should not wait and should take advantage of offers at local dealerships to have their system upgraded completed. In addition, last week we worked to procure digital tracking tags to improve our capacity to track and recover any stolen vehicles, and will announce distribution events for these tags in the coming days. We will also be expanding our current license plate reader capacity, LPRs as we commonly refer them to as, by installing an additional 17 fixed LPR sites by the end of 2023, which would be in addition to the 32 fixed and 55 mobile units that we already have in use. In the first quarter of 2024, BPD plans to add 21 mobile and 10 to 12 more fixed position LPRs and upgrade the existing LPR sites to increase capacity even further. Commissioner Worley will delve into this aspect more thoroughly, but we know that auto theft activity is concentrated in certain areas of the city, and particularly, namely, the Northeast and the Southern districts. In line with my directive to BPD to engage in proactive community policing, the police department will deploy highly visible mobile traffic enforcement units at hotspot locations to deter property crime. These units will be equipped with LPR technology to identify stolen vehicles and apprehend those who make the decision to engage in this criminal activity. This past weekend, trial run implementation of those efforts were deployed in the Southeastern and the Southern District. We know that in the interim, those who have had their car stolen have had to grapple with so many challenges, even when their vehicle is recovered. And what we're doing as a city, all that we can at the city level to help those dealing with those challenges as smooth as possible. As we stand here at the city impound lot on Pulaski Highway, we're announcing a slate of improvements being made to the lot to assist the experience of residents seeking to retrieve their vehicles. We're working to reduce wait times, improve the facilities, and increase accessibility of payment options. I want to remind the public that last year we removed all fees associated with stolen vehicles. Victims of auto theft are able to recover their vehicles free of charge. Prior to this change, owners of stolen vehicles had to pay $130 to $140 to cover towing costs. Under this new policy, the city has assumed the cost of the nearly $250,000 annually that is historically associated with towing fees and recovering stolen vehicles. Not least of all of these efforts are layered on top of our ongoing lawsuit against Hyundai and Kia failing to equip their vehicles with industry standard technology and mobilization technology. Numerous cities throughout the country have also filed suits because the origin of this spike is very crystal and clear. Not only should these companies be held accountable for their failure in providing a secure product, but they must answer to the thousands of their customers, our residents, who have been so thoroughly impacted by this spike. But we can't tackle this issue alone. Nearly every community in our city has been impacted by this issue, and as a part of our comprehensive strategy, coordination with our elected partners at the local, state level is crucial, and we will continue to do that. We will also continue our close coordination with law enforcement partners, community-based organizations, and residents to address auto theft issues. This includes utilizing our proven strategies and decade-old partnerships like the Regional Auto Theft Task Force, commonly known as RAT, that we have with our friends at the Baltimore County Police Department. But it also includes ongoing conversations between MONSE, the Mayor's Office of Children, Family and Success, and DJS to develop targeted solutions to tackle the increase in juvenile auto thefts. Auto theft committed by juveniles is up 166% this calendar year as of the 1st of November. And as a part of our broader discussions around youth-involved violence and property crime, we understand that to be so. We have been arresting and re-arresting the same individuals who have repeatedly engaged in this behavior. To date, we've arrested over 692 individuals in connection to stolen autos, including more than 250 young people. And when you think about the number of thefts we are seeing, it is abundantly clear that the same individuals and groups of individuals are driving these crimes. There's 30 young people alone that have been arrested multiple times for carjackings and stolen autos. We know that there is something deeper going on when we see these types of spikes, and we're committed to continuing to address the root cause of these issues, ensuring that young people have the opportunities that they need, the support that they need at home, that encourage them to choose to do the right thing, and yes, consequences that understand their specific needs when they do, in fact, do the wrong thing. But we cannot continue to have this conversation of arresting the same young people over and over and over again. I'm tired of it. The police commissioner tired of it. The women and men on the street are tired of it. Our residents are tired of talking to us about the same people over and over and over again. And as the country grapples with this spike in auto thefts, these strategies are meant to tackle the immediate issue, make it harder for those committing these crimes, make the clearer consequences that are awaiting them, and try to address as many hardships the victims of these crimes experience. The updates we're outlining today are part of our continuous efforts to look for ways that we can expand, adapt, and learn from our counterparts about what is working. Since the moment we began seeing the spike, we've been making those adjustments and will continue to do so to ensure that we're doing everything in our power to tackle this issue. But we know that we can only address the real cause of these crimes with the buy-in of every single resident across our great city, and we will continue the work to build just that. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Worley to talk about the ongoing work that BPD is doing, the specific trends that we're seeing, and dive deeper into what our targeted enforcement strategy will look like. Mr. Commissioner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning. Basically, I'm here today to talk about some of the initiatives we're going to be running to combat not only just stolen autos, but carjackings, as well as we still have the homicide and shooting numbers that the mayor mentioned that are still there. Like he had mentioned, over 9,000 stolen autos. We're going to really push for people to come out and get the wheel locks. Over 68% of those stolen autos are Hyundais and Kias. Like the mayor said, we've given over 3,000 wheel locks out. In August, we did an initiative where we gave out over 250. We have two coming up on November the 11th from 11 to 2 at Northwood Elementary School, and another one November 15th, 4 to 7 at Hollinswood Shopping Center. We'll distribute 500 wheel locks on a first-come, first-served basis, and then we will have over 1,000 wheel locks available in the 9 police districts for you to pick up. In order to receive a lock, the drivers must present a valid ID, be a city resident, and own a Hyundai or Kia. In addition to handing out wheel locks, we're going to be working with the manufacturers to host 2 initiatives in early 2024 to be able to put anti-theft devices on the vehicle to stop it from being stolen. As the mayor had mentioned, over 600 stolen auto arrests this year, over 200 with juveniles. 77 of them have been robbery and carjacking arrests. Just this last week, we arrested 21 juveniles, served a warrant or detained 17 separate for robbery and carjacking arrests. Over the weekend, we made 14 handgun arrests. A couple of those were juveniles. In addition to using our Baltimore Crime Community Information Center to track things with cameras, our Central District made a significant arrest of individuals who had stolen a carjacked vehicle, tracked the vehicle, and were able to arrest 2 suspects as they fled from the vehicle, both of which had handguns. Some of our initiatives over the weekend that we've done, it's basically a car stop initiative, because usually what happens is the vehicles, once the vehicle knows that we're behind, if we try to initiate a car stop, they will take off. We have a no pursuit policy, so we are not going to pursue it unless it's a heinous crime. But the increased proactivity means that we see more people out there, see more officers on the street. We also want to make sure that when we do make an arrest, if it's an adult, we do a proper initiative where we interview them. But the biggest issue that we have is once the vehicle's out there, we need to hear from the citizens. So report your vehicle as soon as possible. There are several things that we need from you. Please, as the season starts and it starts to get warmer, please don't let your vehicle running in order to let it warm up, because they'll basically steal the vehicle. Also, make sure your vehicle's locked. Get a wheel lock. Make sure that you park in lighted areas if you can. Check on your vehicle occasionally. If you have an alarm, make sure it's set. But just be very diligent about when you approach your community, especially with these carjackings, because what happens is if you pull into your community, I did this a lot when I was in the Northeast, basically give pointers. If you're pulling into your community and you see something on your street that just doesn't seem right, it probably is not. If you see some individuals standing around, milling around in your neighborhood, and they don't look like you've seen them in your neighborhood, or you think they're something, the hairs on the back of your neck stand up and it doesn't feel right, keep driving, call 911, report the incident to the police. Let us come and investigate it. If you see individuals in a vehicle, sitting in a vehicle, try to report them if you believe they're up to something that's not good. That they could be casing out an area for a stolen car. If you see people trying up door handles, call 911. All these things are what we need from everyone. We've got an all-hands approach where we're working with DJS every single day to keep the individuals in jail once we make the arrest. Our regional auto theft task force, our FBI, every federal, state, and local agency is working to help us. But basically, the main thing is don't sit in your cars. Be as diligent as you can with your surroundings. Report anything that doesn't seem right. Just let us know. Let us come and investigate it. We do have areas where we know vehicles have been stolen. Some of the initiatives that for example, we know that there's a location in one of our districts that has a lot of individuals who have stolen autos before, and we've tracked those vehicles back to those areas. We set on the vehicles and we made a handgun arrest in a stolen auto for a young person who came out of the house, got in the stolen vehicle and took off. So we know where they are. We're not going to publish it, but we are going to have our officers check it. We're using our license plate readers, we're using our cameras, and our biggest tool is our Foxtrot, because what happens is a lot of these stolen cars, carjackings have occurred overnight, so we've changed our hours of our carjacking initiative, changed the hours of Foxtrot, so that we are out at the most diligent and most opportune times to catch the individuals who commit these crimes. So the biggest thing is if you see something that doesn't look right, call 911, let us investigate, and then just do as much as you can to prevent your vehicle from being stolen or carjacked.
Thank you, everybody, and now we will take questions.
Up to the mic
There we go.
so that your colleagues can capture sound of the questions.
Good morning. I know you're fully aware of the statistics. We're likely going to pass 10,000 auto thefts this year. We saw this really explode in June, July, over the summer. It's now November. I'm curious to know why now these initiatives are being announced and implemented and not 4 or 5 months ago.
So I guess you missed that when we said we started with this work in 2022, right? So this has been happening since it was a viral TikTok video that went last year, and we've been working on this issue since then. We're going to continue that. This is an update to an already existing strategy. So your question is just frankly wrong.
So then a question about the digital tracking devices that you're planning to bring. Can you tell us more about how many of those, how that will work, and can the city afford this?
So we will, yes, the city can afford it, and we'll be giving those details out after we go through the proper procurement channels.
Okay, I have a question for Commissioner Worley. So speaking to auto theft victims, a big concern that they share with us is that police reports are taken over the phone. And I know that this is part of the department's smart policing strategy, but victims feel they even describe it as being further victimized to not even interact with an officer face to face, and then they feel like the issue is not pursued from that point forward. So what can be done to...
The last part, the cars were too loud. We couldn't hear you for like 10 seconds. Can you say that last part again?
So I don't know exactly where I cut off, but I've talked to so many of these auto theft victims, and they are very frustrated that they do not get to speak to an officer face to face after what's a very traumatic event for them. This is their livelihood, to get to the grocery store, to get to work, to get their kids to school. And then they come down to the impound lot, and I know you talked about streamlining processes, but what can be done to help victims of these very real crimes feel like the department is there to support them and find somebody and hold them accountable for what has happened?
Well, I'll take that question first. So I'll just say this is what we have to have happen is the total understanding, and we need all of our partners in the media to help to get that information out there too. Yes, there is a change with the police department doing reports over the phone or on the internet for auto theft. Quite frankly, that's to have the officers being able to bring closure to those residents, so that instead of being where we know the car isn't, the commissioner and his folks are actually having them go out to look for those cars and challenging those and finding those people using LPRs and other things to do that. BPD also does have victim services and things like that that the commissioner can talk about. But the best way to support these residents is to actually go out, recover their property, and arrest the people that are actually committing the auto thefts. And we're going to do that by actually being out on the street doing that work, getting away from the ways of the past where we were sending police officers lights and sirens to people's homes for a car theft, and the car is literally driving the other way. We need the officers out there doing what they have been doing time and time again and making these arrests. And we're going to hope to work with all of our partners to make sure that we're not arresting the same people over and over again.
So speaking, one more question. So speaking to the changing the processes here at the impound lot, can you provide some more specifics along that? Because we've been out here before. We've seen a long line of people waiting to recover their cars. I'm told anecdotally that many of them in line are here because of auto theft, and they describe hours long of a process. And I know you say no fees, but I've also spoken to people who've had to pay speeding tickets that they say their thieves have incurred while their car is stolen.
Yeah, there's a process for that as well to get those things taken off. But I'll just say, as you know, I don't deal with anecdotes. We know that people have to come here for many reasons that their car could be impounded, right? And what we're talking about now is, again, one, getting rid of those fees for auto thefts, putting different payments back. During COVID, when COVID arose, there was the removal of the ATMs and those kind of cash payments and only taking electronic payments. We're going to be moving back to have that. That will help folks. We know many of our residents may not have access to the electronic payments and things like that, to make sure that everybody that comes here, whether they're coming here because they parked in a handicap and got their car towed out to the Pulaski, they had parking tickets and got their car towed, or whether it was stolen, that we want to make sure that they're getting the best experience possible.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. We know that in the past couple of days, there was an issue in Butchers Hill that happened where a woman was assaulted. The two juveniles, one was 12, the other 14, I believe, were arrested, turned into a big issue because they were released just a few hours later to their parents. We know that letters were sent by state officials state lawmakers, and BPD also responded to that. What do you do? What conversations are taking place with DJS to make sure that, like you said, you don't want to keep rearresting the same people, particularly juveniles, to make sure that they do have the consequences to not go back out and reoffend?
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for the question. And I'll just start here, and this is not directed at any members of the media, but for 8 years, folks like myself, even the commissioner before he was the commissioner, had been talking about issues that we have to change with our public safety relationships and agencies at the state. But for a long time, there was no public conversation about that, right? Now we have a new governor that actually wants to work and help the bill with that. I've spoken with this DJS secretary more than I've spoken with the previous one in 8 years of them being there. But what we have to do is make sure that we're building a system that works, right? We have to make sure that when BPD, and I want to be very clear, that they did everything that they were supposed to do. When they make these arrests, when they follow the instructions, when it's the same people over and over again, that there has to be something else. And we're having conversations consistently with DJS, with our state partners. I want everyone to know that this is not some kind of intergovernmental fighting right now. Everyone is working hard together each and every day to address these issues, especially as we lead up into the legislative session and any changes that need to be made there, and having conversations from everyone from the Senate president on up to the governor about how to build a system of juvenile justice that, quite frankly, that one that works. And there are no examples, to my knowledge, that actually work in this country. Maryland would have to be the first to build one that actually understands young people's brain, right? And the fact that a 12-year-old is not a 40-year-old, but also understands putting in accountability for residents who've been victimized and making sure that we're providing all the services necessary to support those young people and their families as well.
Are there any specifics at this point on what ideas have been thrown into the
Well, I'll give you a couple that we've given out before, right? And this one isn't even just about juveniles, but anybody that's on GPS monitoring, juvenile or other, right? It should be 24/7, 365. And if they are not where they're supposed to be, right, there should be an immediate notification to whatever jurisdiction, whether that's Baltimore City, Baltimore County, so that we can effectuate. If in the case of a young person, if they're not in the committance of another crime, BPD can turn them back over to DJS, right? If they're in committance of a crime, there's clearly the criminal side that they would have to go to. But right now, what would happen is they would have to go to DJS. DJS would have to go to a judge. The judge would have to get a warrant, and then where is that young person? And time and time again, we have found young people dead with an ankle bracelet on, or committing a violent crime with an ankle bracelet on. And we shouldn't do that with the technology that we have. And we have a duty to update those things to make sure that they're working, because Marylanders, right, not just Baltimoreans, Marylanders, people in this country think that GPS monitoring means 24/7, 365 regardless. And that's not the case right now.
Can we also get a response from Commissioner?
Oh, yeah,
Worley
you
to the
absolutely
question?
can.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, we have a great relationship with DJS. We talk every single day. Whenever there's an issue, I thought it was extremely important, and I put out what our officers did and everything that our officers did, and they did everything right. And I thought that, and I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. It's just something that happened. They got released. We talked about it, and we'll work through it. We'll deal with what happened, and we'll work together to make sure it doesn't happen again. And that's the whole part of the process. Is like the mayor said, the relationships are there. People are going to make mistakes sometimes. We're human. Everybody's human. They're going to make mistakes. But I thought that I needed to respond, that the police department needed to respond, to basically say that our officers did what we were supposed to do, and we'll stand behind that.
When you say people make mistakes, are you talking about them being released, or are you talking about the kids making a mistake?
Well, we know the kids made mistakes, so I mean, and you asked a question about them being released. So it was the decision that was made, and that's what was done. Our officers did what they were supposed to do, and then we would work from there to fix it. If there was a mistake made, if they thought it was something they shouldn't have done, we work through it. But I stand behind what our officers did, because they did what they're told to do.
Just to follow up to that, and one more question: is that the normal process for how that works with that age group, for them to be released to their parents?
It depends on the crime that they commit. It all depends. Sometimes we don't even take them to juvenile. We don't even take them to juvenile facility because of the diversion program and the great relationship that we have with DJS. We can call DJS out on the street. DJS worker will tell us, hey, just give them a referral, take them home, and send us the paperwork. And we do that, and then they follow up, and they do what they do. So we've got a great relationship. It just so happened this one didn't work out the way it was supposed to, and we'll get it fixed, and we'll move forward.
And last question, Commissioner, you mentioned that state and federal involvement in order to help BPD. Can you talk about what their involvement is?
Yeah, the state police are always there. I have a great relationship with Superintendent Roland Butler. He provides us with resources when we need it. We haven't decided how we're going to have them involved. Most likely, it's going to be with investigative issues because they have to cover the whole state with their ground forces. So we've been using them with investigative issues. The FBI and some of our federal partners, ATF, DEA, they're all behind us, especially with these carjacking initiatives. We have a carjacking task force through the FBI that we've been working for months with our other federal partners. That's why part of the reason why our carjackings are down, and the work that we've done with keeping some of the individuals who have done carjackings. That's why our carjackings are done. The young people and criminals have just switched to stealing cars, which is easier now because of the issues with the two models. But we'll get that conquered as well.
Thank you.
On the juvenile car thefts, do we know what the recovery rate is on these cars? I know sometimes they're destroyed, sometimes they're abandoned.
Yeah, I think we recover about 90% or higher. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting told 60 back there from my PIO. So
Let me ask again. The recovery rate, just so I have it clean for our story.
Yep.
The recovery rate on these, do we get back a lot of them?
60%.
60%. And I know you don't like dealing in anecdotes, but I've been amazed before, like in the county when we covered this type of story. They could talk about one gentleman who was arrested on a Friday and arrested again on Sunday and had 5 cars on him. Anything like that come to mind? Who holds the record here?
We have a whole bunch of them that come to mind, right? We have them. Look, we have a prime example now of a young man who's deceased, who was arrested as a part of an attempted carjacking of a police officer, where the police officer was shot and he was arrested, and then arrested again, and arrested again, and then unfortunately not too far from here, his life was ended in the committance of another. All right, when you think about that, that's why I had that frustration last week after the BOE, because we are seeing the same people over and over again. And what you hear from folks is like, well, what is the police department doing? Let's be frank and honest. They're doing their job. They're making the arrest. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to do. That's enforce the laws of the city of Baltimore and the state of Maryland. But we have to have a broader conversation about how that happens. How someone who's in the committance of a carjacking and where a police officer is shot is out so quickly. And now he's dead now. Right? Yes, if we were doing things in a better and proper way, he'd probably be in jail, but that's better. That allows us to be able to help rehabilitate him, and now his family's going to be dealing with that trauma in addition to the trauma of all those that he victimized.
Thank you. One last thing. Is it a small percentage where they're actually stealing cars to like end up at the port and shipping them out? Is anyone using juveniles to get cars and, to kind of relieve their liability? And
I mean, that's always a possibility, because there was 40% that we're not recovering. So we don't know where those cars end up. So those 60% that recovery are usually joyriding. But the trend now is for some of our young people to steal a car, do a couple of street robberies or a carjacking, take another car, and just keep moving from car to car. So that's some of the trends now that we're starting to see to try to combat.
thank you.
And then also, I wanted to go back to the question that the young lady back there asked about with the vehicles being reported stolen over the phone. We do that because, I mean, obviously our staffing shortages are well documented, over 1,000 officers, but you do talk to an officer on the phone, and we take every report seriously. The victim, I'm sorry that they don't feel like they have an officer there, but what that does, if an officer responds to a stolen auto, it takes the officer off the street for about an hour, that he could be or she could be looking for the stolen auto or looking for a carjacking, because they have to talk to the citizen at the house, get the information. Sometimes not all the information is readily available, and then they have to write the report. So for about an hour, the officer's taken off the street when we could have them doing something more proactive. But they are working to solve the crime for the citizen, and that's the best thing we can do once they've been victimized.
Any outlets that haven't gotten a question?
Hi. It was mentioned, it's a specific group that you all recognize and rearrest. Is there a kind of ballpark number we could have, like the number of juveniles you kind of keep looking at, keep rearresting?
Yeah, I have. I think it was 30 that we've arrested multiple times. So we do keep track. I mean, once we get the way it works, we keep track of the individuals for carjackings, because some of them become adult jurisdiction. At a certain age, they become charged with adults, especially if it's an armed robbery. So there's about 30 that we've arrested multiple times.
And this may be more for Mayor Scott, but you mentioned how you've been talking with DJS Secretary Governor Moore a lot about juvenile crime and things like that. But with the new legislative session coming in nearly 2 months now, has there been any discussion on potential legislation that could come in that?
I can't hear you yet.
Okay, I'll repeat it. I'll just wait.
All right, you're good now.
Okay, so yeah, with the legislative session, it's coming in nearly 2 months now. Any conversations about potential reform that could be taken up in the upcoming session?
Well, I think I mentioned one already. So we had a bill around home monitoring last year. We're going to be going back with that bill, and we'll be having further conversations about other parts of legislation that we think we want to see, and also things that that may not need legislation, things that can and will and should just be done.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.